Hello, friends, and welcome to another episode of Art Deep Dives. Last time we talked about perfectionism and the concept of perfectionism in relation to the artistic and creative journey and to art, and also in general, because these are concepts that permeate society whether we want to or not. And I think it's a good practice to dissect these concepts and see if there's actually any value there. This time we're going to talk about hard work and work ethic in relation to, again, the creative journey, but also in general. This is a concept that is deeply embedded in our society. We all have to kind of deal with it and take it into consideration if we want to achieve any kind of goal and if we want to pursue any passions or dreams that we have. I myself have struggled so much with this concept. I have tried to understand if this is something that really must be in my philosophy of life and in my artistic process, or I can just discard it. And today we're going to deep dive into it and figure out if it's useful or not. So the concept of hard work and work ethic is not actually very old. It's relatively new compared to the history of humanity. It's something that was born mainly with the Reformation and with Martin Luther and with Protestantism. It kind of developed from there. Of course, there always has been work in our society, but it wasn't always viewed as kind of a good quality to be a hard worker. For example, in the ancient Greece, people considered work as kind of a suffering or something that you had to do, but it was kind of a burden and something that caused pain, and so it wasn't viewed in this positive light. Of course, in our contemporary age, many people are kind of rebelling against this idea, so it's not as settled in their society that hard work is inherently kind of a good thing to do or a good quality in a human being, but it's very prevalent. So the main thing that I wanted to point out about hard work is hard work in relation to a pursuit of a dream, of a passion, of a goal, of something that in our minds is going to make us happier and more content and more abundant. When we are pursuing our dreams, when we decide that we want to reach a particular goal, we often look at successful people, for example, and other people that give advice on how to reach that goal, because of course it's something new that we never even tried to do, so it's very difficult to figure out how to go from point A to point B sometimes. So we look externally to all of these advice, and many of these advice are that you should work hard for your dream and you should put in so many hours and you should never sleep. Basically, you should grind culture in order to achieve what you want. I personally believe that this is a fundamental misunderstanding of how reaching your goal and your dream works. I want to make sure here that we make a distinction between a real passion and a real dream that one has, like an authentic dream that comes from the soul and the heart and something that we think is going to make us genuinely happy, versus an external goal that we kind of absorbed from society, like being rich or being beautiful, that we think is going to make us happy because that's what society kind of wants from us and says that is going to bring us happiness. So this is the first distinction. The goal and the passion has to be genuine for this whole concept that I'm going to explain to work. Most of us artists, I think, we are very sensitive souls and we are very in touch with our emotions, and I think that many of us have kind of a genuine dream in mind. We often reconnected with our childhood. Many of us think of when we were little and we were drawing and we were passionate about it, we felt happy. So I think that I don't have to make that distinction for our group of people, but yeah, I just want to make it so we are clear that the goal that I'm talking about in this video is going to be an authentic one as much as possible, because of course if a person figures out that the goal is not authentic, they can always change it. But insofar as our understanding of our goals, the goal should be authentic. So we look at other people that we think have achieved an authentic goal, like the one that we want to achieve. for example, famous artists, people that have created something that really resonated with us, that really struck us, that really made us feel something, many times those are the people that push us to do a similar thing. The problem or the confusion comes about when those people, those successful people in our eyes, try to explain how they managed to create something so amazing and so cool and to reach their dream life and to become the person that they wanted to become. If someone else asks them, how did you do that? Many times these people don't know exactly how to explain it. Many times people just explaining that, it was something that I just wanted to do, and so I did it, and I just was passionate about it, and I just pursued it with all of my soul, and I didn't do anything else for months or years, and I didn't sleep, and I put in so many hours to kind of create this thing and to manufacture this thing and to put it out in the world. It was just my passion that fueled me, blah, blah, blah. And if you pay close attention to it, you can hear the truth of how they actually reached that. But for a normal person that is kind of still full of all the concepts of our society, they might look at that process of this successful person and think that the way that they reach that goal is through hard work, because externally you see the person not sleeping, you see the person just doing the thing for hours and hours on end. They forget to eat, they just isolate, and they don't talk to anyone else. And so we think, oh, they made so many sacrifices to arrive at that goal, to arrive at that amazing thing. So if I want to create a beautiful thing that resonates with people, I have to be basically miserable, because we look at that person's life and we think, oh, they must have been miserable because they didn't eat and they didn't, go to parties and they didn't have a relationship, they were alone and they didn't sleep. And so, okay, I just have to make sacrifices for my art, for my pursuit. That's why we preach hard work. It's like a virus in the capitalistic society that spreads even on beautiful things and creative and artistic things. We read everything through that lens. The fault of this is kind of the successful artist's fault that cannot exactly explain how they did it, because it's kind of a vague and it's a kind of an internal thing that you can't really explain. And it's the society's fault because we have just a few lenses that are mostly negative to read things that happen in our society. So we have this idea that successful people, like authentically creative and artistic people and successful people, are hard workers. I'm going to explain to you why this is completely wrong and the complete opposite of what actually happens. And I'm going to introduce you now to a concept that you already probably know about if you're an artist, because we are woo-woo and hippies here. And so everybody kind of knows about these kinds of things. And the concept is that of flow state. So what is a flow state? It's not something, as I already mentioned, that you can completely explain, okay? It's an alternative consciousness state that you reach when you're doing something that you love. I want to argue in this video that it's actually flow state that allows a person to create something authentic and true and meaningful and that resonates with many people. Why does it make sense? Because when you enter a flow state, from outside, it looks very, very similar to hard work, because the person doesn't want to stop what they're doing. The person is just so focused on their craft at the moment. They forget to eat, they forget to sleep, they forget to, have social relationships, they isolate perhaps, and they're so focused on their thing. And from an external point of view, that looks like hard work. If a person has never or rarely enters a flow state, they can only interpret that process as hard work. It just makes more sense because a flow state is a state of relaxation. It's a state of contentment, of being in the present moment, of being happy, of being joyful, and just focused and entrenched in what you're doing. That's the reason why beautiful things come out of that state. It's a state of just bliss, okay? So it makes sense that you create something beautiful from that state. It makes less sense to create something beautiful from a state of hard working and stress and going against yourself and forcing yourself and striving and struggling, okay? How can you create something amazing and beautiful from that state? It doesn't make that much sense. Also, in a flow state, you kind of reach a level of kind of connection to something bigger, perhaps. I think even atheists can kind of feel this, that they enter in another vibration that can kind of receive ideas more easily. And so it makes more sense that a creative thing comes out from a state where you can receive more easily. When you're in a state of struggle and hard work, you're always thinking about what you have to do and what you should do. It's always things that are not new. It's just concept that you're applying from outside that you think will help you, but you're not bringing in something actually new in society. It's like you're operating from society already existing concepts, and so it's very difficult that something new can come in. And thirdly, it just explains how creative people can go for so long and can focus for so long on something that they want to create. We always think about motivation and how to have motivation to do our work and to create our stuff. Motivation comes from flow state, because flow state is something that makes us feel good in the moment, and so it automatically motivates when we can reach that state. We don't need to kind of hype ourselves up to do something. We don't need to convince or struggle or push ourselves to actually do something, because it's already something that we want to do because it makes us feel better. With the concept of flow state, instead of the concept of hard work, everything comes together and we can see that the process makes a lot more sense. If I've convinced you enough, I want to move on to how to reach that flow state and how different of a process it is from the concept of hard work. We all know that to work hard, the only thing that you have to do is to kind of push yourself and force yourself to do something. That is what we consider discipline. And that's also why discipline is such a useless concept as well. Discipline goes right along with hard work. It's a constricting state. It's a kind of a stressful and painful state. And you're just so tired after you've worked hard. For even just an hour, you just want to nap and not do anything. To enter into a flow state, you have to do exactly the opposite of that. So these are opposing and end of spectrum concepts that we have. They're not similar in any way except for the external manifestation, okay? To enter into a flow state, you have to relax. You have to feel safe. You have to feel like nothing bad is going to happen. So you have to have a positive mindset. And most of all, you have to relax and you have to enjoy what you're doing. Many of us struggle with this so much because we're just not used to being in that state, except maybe when we are completely resting and not thinking about anything. That's why we crave rest so much. But we mostly are not in that state, and so we have to kind of train ourselves to go back to that state. It's very difficult in the beginning because when you're starting out, I'll make the example of the artist, but it's for everyone that wants to kind of change their lives and make their lives better. When you're starting out, you're probably struggling so much, and that's the reason why you want to make the change. It's probably because you're at rock bottom in your reality. So you don't at all feel safe, you don't at all feel relaxed and chill, and it's very difficult from that position to enter into flow state, because of course you want to make changes, you want to force changes to happen because you're so desperate. And that's why it's so hard for people to change their lives, because it's totally counterintuitive the way to go about this. In our society, we think that we have to kind of force things to happen. When we're struggling, we stress ourselves out to find a solution, to find a way to change in some way. And the path forward, the path to happiness, is exactly the opposite of that. Even in your state of utter rock bottom and desperation, you want to start to relax as much as you can and enjoy the small things in your life as much as you can. When you start doing that, even in a difficult, very difficult situation, a path creates in front of you that's made of all of these little things that help you being relaxed, feeling a little bit more safe, feeling a little bit more calm. You start doing that, and I started doing that personally with walks. Like I wasn't in a state that was positive enough to create and to draw. You don't have to actually start there. Even if your dream is to be an artist, you might not be able to start from actually creating. You might need to do something smaller and lower pressure to start entering into that state. It will be that state that will bring you to create something and to the creative act. So if you're desperate, don't force yourself to create. Don't force yourself to do something completely out of your comfort zone if it makes you so anxious and if it makes you feel stressed. The goal here is to feel the opposite of that and to feel relaxed and to feel content. Start with the next best thing that you think will make you feel that way. And from there, a path will light up that will arrive to your destination, to your dream and to your creative goals. You cannot be creative from a state of lack and from a state of stress and from a state of desperation. As many things in our society are, the process is the opposite of what we think it will be. First comes the state, first comes the flow, first comes the being content and being relaxed and being happy, and then comes the creation. It's not the other way around. Many artists that are struggling so much with perfectionism and imposter syndrome and just not feeling like they're good enough and not feeling like they're doing the right thing and working so hard, etc., etc., they are approaching the process in the opposite way, not in a different way, in the opposite, reversed way. First you find the state, and then you create the thing, and then you create the life that you want to live, because it comes from a feeling inside of you. It is born from an internal environment inside of you. It's not born from your external acts. So that's what I figured out, that's what I realized, and that's what I practice every day in my life, relative to my artistic and creative practice, but also in general with everything that I'm doing, with everything that I have. I still have difficulties in my life, and they are lessons, they are teachers for me to learn that reacting from fear and reacting from lack is never the choice that is going to allow me to find happiness in the end. Happiness is found in the present moment, and a state of happiness cannot be born from a state of stress and lack and pain. It just doesn't make sense. It just doesn't go together. It's not the natural consequence, and it's not the same thing. That's why being present is useful, being happy in the moment is useful, because you create your happiness right now, in the moment that you're at right now. And this is not at all about fake positivity. This is not at all about forcing yourself to be positive, and I will probably make a whole video about this, because that's another huge topic that it has taken me a while to figure out and understand, and I think that now I have a good grasp on it, so I'm definitely going to talk about it at some point. So it's never going to be about forcing yourself to be positive, but it's always going to be about choosing things to do that allow you and help you to enter into a flow state, into a relaxed state that will help you to reach your creative goals and also be happy, because that's the main thing. It doesn't matter to be an artist or whatever it is that that you want to become. That might not even be the goal for you, okay? It might just be kind of a motivator behind the whole thing. The important thing, that the main thing that we want, that everyone wants, is to just be happy, whatever the external manifestation of that will be. Please let me know your thoughts about all of this. I hope that this video has been useful to you, and if you want to chat one-on-one with me because you feel that it would be useful for your creative practice or for your life in general, I have sessions available in my Etsy shop. They are basically video calls where we can talk about your struggles and I can offer my perspective. So if you feel like I could help you with that, feel free to check out my Etsy shop. And thank you so much for watching. I feel like I need to rest my voice now, and I'll see you next week. Bye. I love you.